In the James Franklin era, the Penn State Nittany Lions are 14-2 in night games. That record will be put to the test this week as number 6 Oregon Ducks come to town. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 4 of the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome to the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to Season 5, Episode 4 of the Straight from the Crest podcast. It's Oregon Week, and this episode is brought to you by our friends at Low Country Litter Lifters. At Low Country Litter Lifters, they pride themselves on being affordable, providing trustworthy and professional junk removal and waste management solutions in the Low Country. Whether you're managing residential, commercial, or construction waste, they'll take the worry off your plate with a call or text. Number and link in description below. Fellas, welcome into the show today. It's really when this show starts to heat up. We're in Big Ten play, a monstrous matchup coming to Beaver Stadium as the high-flying 6th-ranked Oregon Ducks meet the 3rd-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in the ultimate showdown in just one of the marquee games of the week, a key matchup for Penn State early on. How'd you guys spend your bye week? Garrett, did you fix your ums in looking at the camera?
We're going to find out. I feel very choppy if I don't use the U word. And given that your faces are underneath the camera, it's really hard to look at the camera. And so these are some of the things that we've addressed in film. Almost said the U word, but I haven't said it yet. So I'm going to hand it off to Beck here. I feel like I'm in like if I don't say the U word, I feel like I'm in a hostage video. So
Garrett, you're going to make it through. I believe I struggle with the same thing with the camera because you guys are down here, but the camera's up there. I don't like looking at the camera. I'd rather look at you guys. So we're working on that. I hung out with the Nittany Lion. He's back one more week. I'm using the U word now, but I'm excited to be here. You know, we got some good rest and relaxation on the bye week. Watch some good football games. I think this week is going to be pretty special, like just around the country with the games that we have. So excited to get into it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it seems like this matchup has really picked up traction. Garrett, it seems like this Oregon fan base is pretty feisty here as we're 3 days away from kickoff. I don't know what you've noticed on social media there.
yeah, I'm seeing other people talk about it, tried to tune it out. There we go. I gotta not think about the U word. I'm just gonna start going here. There's a lot of a lot of talk across the country about the legitimacy of Penn State's ranking of where they're supposed to be in the pecking order of things. Was talking to our college football national correspondent Colin Spencer earlier this week, and Oregon is truly a modern national brand. In a day where everybody's talking about blue bloods, Oregon's not really put in there, but since kind of really the mid to late 90s, and then obviously 2012 and 2014. This team's played in 2 national championships in the last 15 years. Penn State really hasn't been close. So they do have some legs to stand on. They won the conference last year, beat, in their first year in the Big Ten. They've had success in their previous conference. Penn State definitely has a lot more to prove than Oregon does. So I understand where the chippiness is coming from. I do think it's going to be interesting to see how they receive playing in this environment, the fan base and the team itself. Autzen Stadium is commonly referred to as maybe the loudest stadium in college football. I think a lot of it has to do with the dynamics of their field and how the stadium is. I don't think a lot of people have been to a lot of people in Oregon have ever been to a Penn State Whiteout game. So we'll see how that tampers down you'll see that there's a little bit of a mutual respect from both fan bases after this one's wrapped up.
Justin, it wasn't even a calendar year ago that Penn State was just minutes away from playing in a national title, and they've won 3 straight games. Why is there a gray cloud over this Penn State football team right now?
I don't know if a gray cloud is the right word. I think that there are a lot of storylines, whatever you want to call them, expectations that haven't been met over the past couple of years. So stuff that Garrett alluded to, where we haven't performed well in big games, we haven't performed well in big stages. So that stuff's lingering, and I think it will continue to linger until we change that narrative. So I don't know that I see a gray cloud. Let's rephrase it, man. I see a good opportunity for us to flip the script and really set the season in the trajectory we want it to go. I don't think that this is a must-win game. in the sense of, is the season over if you lose? But from a national perspective and from a tone setting standpoint, this is pretty close to a must win game. You've got the Whiteout as the night game. We've been clamoring for years now, make our best home game the Whiteout. And it happened this year, and it's not big noon. We got Oregon at home. We got Oregon at home at 7:30 in the Whiteout. We got to win this one. So I don't know if it's gray cloud. I think that it's definitely a lot of expectations that are out there that the team has to meet.
Yeah, this isn't Nevada. It's not FIU, and it certainly isn't Villanova. This is a team that went 13-1 a year ago that won the conference, debatably the best conference in football, and they're coming in a different scenario facing Penn State. Last year, they weren't prepared to play Penn State. They were prepping for Oregon, or I'm sorry, they were prepping for Ohio State. And after Ohio State fell to Michigan in that last week, and Penn State had the opportunity with a win over Maryland to get into that game. But a lot's changed. These teams met last year in the Big Ten Championship in Indianapolis, 987 yards combined from both teams, but a lot's changed. No longer is quarterback Dylan Gabriel in Oregon. No longer is defense coordinator Tom Allen at Penn State, and no longer is Abdul Carter on this team, and no longer is Tyler Warren in a Penn State uniform. There's got to be guys that step up, and obviously we'll get into this later in the show. But we've talked about what Penn State's done the last few weeks in terms of breaking down their win. In every game, we've talked about what they needed to work on, and a lot of people aren't happy. Garrett, from the Oregon perspective, through 3 weeks, what have you seen from this Ducks team?
Yeah, a very workmanlike first couple of weeks for Oregon. I think a big thing is they've been able to have stretches where they've played elite levels of football, something that I don't think we can say to this point, which is the big concern. There hasn't been a stretch, a 10, 15, 20-minute stretch of football where man, that is a gear that Penn State has hit that we didn't know they had or we expected. Oregon has hit those gears multiple times in multiple different scenarios. With that said, they really have not played anybody much better than Penn State has. Oklahoma State is horrific. They just fired Mike Gundy. Oregon State, unfortunately, given the fact that they've sort of been left behind in the era of conference realignment, they're not very good either. And then something I do take away from Oregon's start this year is that they went to Northwestern. Outside of the friendly confines of their home stadium, Northwestern is not in any way an intimidating environment, but it's not home. And they looked a little bit more pedestrian there, winning that game 34-14, and it really kind of being a much slower performance overall than what we saw in the other, really the first 2 games. So I think that Oregon clearly has shown that they have a lot of firepower. They lost a lot from last year. They had a lot of big injuries going into the season. And so I think there was some expectation that there would be a big step back. I think what they have proven is it's at the very least not a big step back. And in fact, they could be close to what they were last year. This weekend will be a very, very big tell as to, how, where does this Oregon team measure up to where they were really being almost wall to wall the number 1 team in the country last year.
Justin, Penn State has the experienced quarterback, the more experienced quarterback of the two between Drew and Dante Moore of Oregon. Drew actually is the second. He has the second most wins among active quarterbacks who stayed at one school in college football in the country, and they're at home in front of a raucous crowd. How much do you think this whiteout home field advantage means for Penn State in this early season matchup?
Yeah, I think it matters a bunch. I think that our environment is second to none. So I know Autzen Stadium has a good reputation as well. I believe that I haven't been there, so I can't say I can compare them apples to apples, but I believe that we have the best environment in college football. I think we have a young Oregon team coming into town. Dante Moore's already some story came out today that he was reaching out to Bo Nix about how to handle the whiteout. Bo Nix lost in the whiteout, so he's asking a loser's opinion on how to handle the whiteout. So I can't see him coming in and lighting it up. He's a good player. He's going to make plays when he needs to make plays. But I think that the home field advantage, the whiteout's going to play a big role in the game. And I see really getting under that young team's skin.
Yeah, the last time College Game Day's in town, So little couple notes here. This is a 7:30 game. Even though College Game Day is in town, this is not going to be on ESPN. So it will be Todd Blackledge on the call with Ian Eagle and
Noah Eagle.
Ian's his son. Good call.
Yep.
Good call there. And it's the third regular season matchup, as we said. But the last time that a West Coast team came to Beaver Stadium and played while College Game Day was here was in 1991 when Penn State defeated Arizona 41-7. So there's some comparison, but it's a different scenario now. You have a very fast offense, and from the offensive perspective, this team can really play, and Penn State's going to be tested. All we hear is how Penn State has had this slow start, but now's the time to really flip the switch. Justin, I'll go to you here. What would it mean for this Penn State team to come out with a victory Saturday night?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the stuff that I alluded to earlier, where it sets the tone for the year and it puts some of these narratives to bed for at least the time being, right? They're going to come back up as soon as you play Ohio State, because then it's just going to be a different narrative of, oh, we haven't beat Ohio State since 2016. But for the moment in time, it will be a break from the nonstop Franklin can't win the big one, Penn State doesn't win the big one, doesn't win in big stages. So in the grand scheme of things, a win today actually doesn't mean that much. A regular season win in today's college football landscape, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But for a narrative standpoint and from this is a very strong signal that we're headed in the right direction standpoint, I think that a win today means a ton for the team. It also means a ton for the fans. Like, I think we as fans want to see our team win in these big stages. And I don't want to keep seeing the segments on ESPN or on some of the other talk shows about how we are whatever our number is now versus the top 10. All right. I would love for that statistic to go away for at least a couple weeks.
Let's first talk about Oregon's offense matching up against Penn State's defense. So no more is Dylan Gabriel there. Dante Moore, former UCLA transfer, right-handed quick thrower, leads their offense. He's a guy so far that's thrown for 962 yards, completed 75% of his passes, has 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. Their running back room is loaded. They have 8 guys who have 10-plus carries this year. Jaden Lamar is their go-to. He has a team-high 32 carries, 215 yards. Outside of him, De'Aaron Hill and Noah Whittingham, which Whittingham will play, as well as Jordan Davison has a team-high 6 touchdowns. But just 8 guys with 10-plus carries is bizarre in 3 games in the season. So they're deep, and it's kind of funny just reading all the Oregon fans. They're upset that they use such a workload of running backs that don't just stick to one guy. But outside of running backs, they have a very, very talented receiving core and pass catchers all in all. Garrett Moore is their leading receiver with 207 yards. Transfer Malik Benson out of Florida State has a team-high 14 catches. And Kenyon Sadiq, who runs routes like he's George Kittle and performs like he's Tyler Warren. A lot of Penn State fans aren't going to like this, but he's probably a better playmaker than Tyler Warren is. So he's going to be a matchup nightmare. But I'll go to Garrett here. What's really the key to stopping this Oregon offense? And compared to what we saw in the Big Ten championship last year, where they opened up with a touchdown in about 7 plays right down the Penn State defense.
Yeah, I mean, while there's no Tez Johnson, no Trayshawn Holden, Gary Bryant Jr. is back. He already got 10 receptions. A very solid player, Kenyon Sadiq. I don't know if he's a better playmaker than Tyler Warren, but he's good. He's very solid. I think he's better than who we got right now. They do have massive losses, like I said, in losing Tez Johnson to the draft. And then Evan Stewart, who, I'm very familiar with being a former Aggie. And then him getting hurt preseason for Oregon. He was going to be a top 5 receiver in the country type of guy. So they've had to sort of spread the ball around a little bit more. They got, I believe the number is 6 different guys with an over a 40-yard reception. So a lot of different players that have the ability to be explosive. The guy everybody's talking about, though, is Decorian Moore. And how he's going to match up potentially against AJ Harris. That is a key, NFL matchup right there. That's a young player in a new environment, in a tough environment, who can make a lot of plays. If AJ Harris can take him out of the game, that's a big piece off the board that will help Penn State really try to minimize Oregon's explosive play capabilities. Dante Moore, we just don't know enough about how his progression since he was at UCLA. Those teams were not the UCLA teams of now. That was also 2 years ago. They had really good head coach, really good play caller, and Chip Kelly. He was not very good on the road, Dante Moore, in those situations. He hasn't really been in a hostile environment since that season. So we'll see. There's just so much uncertainty. There's a really good stat. I wanted to wait to say it here for the kind of pick 'em, but I'll do it now. Penn State and Oregon, they've played some of the two combined worst schedules in the country to this point. We really do not know anything about these two teams and truly where they stack up right now. And so while, yes, Oregon's offense has looked good in spots, like I said, and why in my mind right now I have a little bit of an edge because I've seen them kind of hum for a bit. We just do not know much. And, like Beck mentioned, like you mentioned, Mikey, I do think this is a situation where maybe this home crowd will make the difference and kind of, tip the scales in a game that could go either way.
Justin, the Oregon offensive line averages 325 pounds, but they replaced 4 of their 5 starters from last season's team. Their center is the only one back. Do you see this as a great opportunity for this Penn State defense and Jim Knowles to really get after Dante Moore and apply pressure?
Yeah, I think, when you think about Jim Knowles specifically, there were 2 games last year that he played Oregon. Obviously, his defense performed significantly better in the second rendition of that. And a lot of that was the duress that they put on Dylan Gabriel. So I'd like to see us do the same thing. I think that our pass rushing group is as good, if not better, than what he had at Ohio State last year. I think tonight Dennis Sutton can look to have a big game. We'll continue to see Chaz Coleman perform. I think that this is going to be a super interesting test for Coleman, just because this will be the first time that he's going up against like Big Ten sized bodies. So we can call it what it is. So he's a freshman who's been playing out of his mind against these teams that are probably not as athletically gifted as what he's going to see the rest of the year. So it'll be super cool to see how he stacks up in Big Ten play and a premier Big Ten play at that. So yeah, I think we can look to see Knowles and that defense try and put Moore under as much duress as possible. I could see a big game out of DDS. I can see him hitting the Nittany Lion thing like Abdul did last year in the playoff game. I think that could be super cool. So,
Garrett, obviously we talked about Tosh Lapoy and what he brings as defensive coordinator. This Oregon defense has 6 transfers at the cornerback position, but 2 of them happen to be all Big Ten first team selections. We also have seen the best out of Drew has been in the hurry up. And last year, if you look back, 2 of his best statistical performances were USC when Penn State was down double digits and Oregon when they were down double digits. Is the key to success for Penn State this high flying passing attack, or is it still the ground game that we haven't seen yet this year?
Yeah, I think it's you asked about Oregon's defense
about
and the rush
4
defense.
different things there. I just
you
realized.
did, but this is an Oregon defense question. Just
Correct.
making sure.
Yeah.
There is still. I still think the rushing attack is going to be an X factor for Penn State here. It's not something that is groundbreaking news, but there was Landon Tangwell had he's done an unbelievable job. He has had about a special every day. But even this past weekend, watching and breaking down the Oregon State game, Oregon State early in the game moved Oregon around on the line of scrimmage and ran the ball very effectively. And so I just wonder if this Oregon defense is once again a bit of a paper tiger when it comes to the numbers that they have versus statistically versus what they actually will do against other athletes. Oregon State does not have the athletes up front in the offensive line that Penn State has. Certainly does not have the running backs. Oregon obviously was able to adjust and make the right corrections. But as we saw last year in the Big Ten championship game, I mean, Penn State had nearly 300 yards, maybe a little bit over on the ground. So it is, I would say that is the X factor. I think also having a lot of turnover in the defensive backfield will allow for opportunities for the passing game to get going. A lot of that obviously will ride on Drew and his ability to make really the more simple to moderately difficult throws. We know he can make the throws into tight areas and coverage. It's really about can he hit guys sitting in zone if they play some zone. Can he go hit the back shoulder? Can he get to the the right spots for these guys? So again, I hate to kind of fall back on this like we just really don't know. But there are some signs that the Oregon defense might be penetratable, pause, or immunity, if you will, for this Penn State team on Saturday night.
So Oregon is 11-5 against the spread in road games since 2014, and Penn State has covered in their last 3 off a bye there. And this is a great way to transition into our prediction segment of the show. I want to hear your guys' perspective on how, or I guess just give me your take on this game, and give me one player that must show up for Penn State if you pick Penn State to win this game. So if either one of you is Penn State winning, you can go first.
Yeah, I got Penn State. I have Penn State winning. Of course, I have Penn State winning. I think that's my role here.
Yeah, I'll give some critical thinking to this. So
okay.
Justin, you can go first.
That's fine. So yeah, like I said, in our season opener here, I'm seeing Penn State in a Michigan 2017 style win. Actually, I probably dialed that back after watching what has been our unfortunate offense over the past 4 weeks. I'm going to go Penn State. But what I actually think it comes down to is not the offense. I think it comes down to the defense. We gave up, 45 points last year in the Big Ten championship game? You can't give up 45 points. All right? If we're asking Drew to score 45, we're going to lose. Okay? So it comes down to the defense, and I mentioned it in the last segment. Dennis Sutton has to be the guy, right? He wants to be the guy. He's the leader of the defense, like probably emotionally and from just like the play. Right? He's the leader of the defense. He has to be the guy that steps up and makes some big impact plays like he has been doing all season. I can see us pushing them around. I can see us running the ball, but we ran the ball for 300 yards last year, and it didn't matter because they scored 45 points. All right, so if we can dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, our defense can step up, play the game that we know they can, and our offense can move the ball at times and score opportunely. I have us winning the game. I'm going to go 27-23. Penn State. We cover by 1. Franklin's got to cover at some point this year. So he's 0-3 against the spread right now, which is very unlike him. I could even see him trying to score a late field goal just to cover, even if he doesn't need to. So, yeah. We're going to go Penn State 27-23, 24-23, and he could probably take a knee, and he kicks the field goal anyways to cover. That's how the game ends.
I need a definitive score prediction.
Yeah, no, it's 27-23. But what I'm saying is that we are going to be winning the game 24-23. He doesn't need to kick the ball. He could take a knee, and he's going to kick the field goal anyways to cover.
All right. Over to Garrett.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to make of that take at the end there. That would be something. Yeah, there's a lot here. I do think that this is an important game in several facets, more so than just the perspective or the national view on Penn State. I do think this is a massive game for our playoff chances. You really start to get thin on opportunities. And just thinking about how this is going to go perception-wise, if Penn State loses this game, they probably drop, to 9, 10, 11. And then in another month, they go play Ohio State in a game that we can't expect to win and potentially drop again. And so you really start losing the potential for a home playoff game. You start losing the potential for any sort of error outside of the Oregon and Ohio State game. If you can't get this one, if you can get this one, there is a ton of wiggle room the rest of the way out. And you also get a very key win on your resume, which Penn State hasn't had in quite some time. So I have concerns, across the board. The biggest one being, total QBR with Drew is not very good right now. With that being said, something that I am encouraged with, and to Justin's point about giving up 45 points in the Big Ten championship game last year, I think Tom Allen's a good guy. Look at what Tom Allen's doing at Clemson right now. right? Look what Tom Allen did with this defense, sort of taking a step back with almost running it back with the same sort of talent from the year before with Manny Diaz. I do think this defense is legit. I've been burned by this before several times, but I think I think Jim Knowles is walking into a situation, like I've said on previous weeks, that he is better equipped to start off fast than he did at Ohio State in his first couple years there. So I think the home crowd has to make a difference here. I think if this game was played at a neutral site or at Oregon, I probably favor Oregon to win the football game. I think Penn State wins a close one. I think that they win it in a defensive fashion, something like 20-17 or 17-14. I think that this is low scoring. I think the under will hit. If this starts getting into a track meet and the defense isn't showing up, I don't have a lot of faith right now in the ability for Drew and the offense to stay consistent enough to win the game. So it is going to have to be the defense. Penn State, the last stat, is also number 1 in the country in turnover margin right now. So they have to be opportunistic. They can give up yards, but the defense is going to have to continue to make plays. And I think that our defense is better than their offense. I think their offense is probably a little bit better than our offense. And so I think that, low scoring defensive slugfest in a tough environment wins the day for Penn State in a close one. And last thing I'll say, Mikey, I truly think this is the biggest. I'm not trying to be like speaking hyperbole here. Can you think of another home game, another regular season game situationally for the program that's bigger than this one in at least the last decade? I can't, because this then knocks you down another rung behind Michigan, behind Oregon. Now you're the 4th team in the Big Ten. I just can't think of another game that kind of sets the tempo and the tone for Penn State more than this one in the regular season.
Yeah, to me, this game resembles the Justin touched on it, the 2017 Michigan game. But to me, this resembles more the 2019 Michigan game. Granted, Michigan came in, this was halfway through the season. Michigan came in at 5-1. Penn State was 6-0. Penn State was number 7th in the country. Michigan was 19th. Michigan had a veteran quarterback in Shea Patterson, loads of NFL talent, and a great coach. Jim Harbaugh obviously has moved on to the NFL. Dan Lanning, I think one day will be a coach in the NFL. I mean, the guy's 39 and been nothing but exceptional at Oregon. But if you remember that game, Sean Clifford only completed 14 passes. He threw 176 yards, but Shea Patterson threw the ball 41 times. Penn State won by 2 touchdowns. And this is what the magnitude of this game feels like for me. I think this game comes down to the play of Drew Allar. As simple as that sounds, I think if he plays an efficient game and doesn't turn the ball over, Penn State wins this game. The running backs will be fine. Katron Allen has taken a step forward. We know Nick Singleton, what he's capable of doing. This defense is more talented than it was last year, despite losing Abdul Carter. I like the addition, like you, Garrett, of Jim Knowles, what he brings. I think the likes of Amare Campbell and I think the likes of Denai Dennis Sutton and AJ Harris will make this a Penn State victory. I have the Penn State Nittany Lions winning this game 28-14. And I think that, I'm sorry, that was the other game. Penn State wins this game 31-21. I think this is the culmination of just a stout defensive performance that's going to set up its offense in prime field position. And as long as Penn State takes care of the ball, gets off to a fast start, doesn't get in a hole early, I think Penn State controls the clock, wears their defensive line down, and moves to 4-0 on the season. So it's a clean sweep for Penn State on this podcast. I don't know what our record is when we do clean sweeps. Usually Garrett helps us out by picking the other team in these matchups, because I know Justin and I have only picked against Justin's never picked against Penn State. I have a few times. But this is a game that, Garrett, and yeah, to answer your question, I don't remember a game of this magnitude. I remember last year, the Ohio State game, but that was just, it wasn't as amplified as it is now. The noise is amplified on James Franklin. Like last year, Franklin got the team to he was 4 minutes away from a national championship, and it came down to just a boneheaded throw. And I think this is just the silence the critics game. And this is not to say if Penn State loses this game, its season's over. But like you said, there's some ground to me being up, and there's some help. The best way Penn State can help itself and help the Nittany Lions get a nice seed in the college football playoff is take care of this great team at home. But they're both two very talented teams. it's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it. So just to recap, Justin 27-23 Penn State, Garrett 27-20 Penn State.
20. Let's go 20-17. I think I said. I think I said 17-14, 2017.
And I have 31-21. Okay. We haven't done this segment yet this year. This segment is who was going to score Penn State's first touchdowns. Garrett, since you're 2-0 in predicting scores this year, I'll let you go first. And Jay, you can go right after Garrett.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Trevor Pena. I think that Nicky will get him open. That's another concern that I didn't mention. But whether he actually allows the offense to not be Mickey Mouse or not. But I do think on some sort of jet sweep or some sort of short crossing route, he makes a couple guys miss, shows his athleticism, shows his ability to make plays in space and scores from maybe 20, 25 yards out.
I think I'm going to go Luke Reynolds. I see Luke Reynolds becoming every week. He's getting closer and closer to Drew's safety net. We talked about we were very reliant on Tyler Warren last year. I think Drew just likes throwing to tight ends. He loves throwing to Luke Reynolds. Luke Reynolds isn't even the tight end one on the team right now, at least not on the depth chart, like Khalil Dinkins still is. But he loves throwing the ball at Luke Reynolds. And I can see him finding him in the end zone, getting down to the red zone early in the game, and Luke Reynolds takes that first touchdown.
Yeah, I'm going to play the hot hand here. I think it's a Katron Allen breakaway run early on that really sets the tempo and gets this crowd involved. But nonetheless, it's going to be an electric environment. Just tons of good football on this weekend. I feel bad if you cannot watch any football this weekend for other prior obligations, but just a pretty decisive game for Penn State and the noise surrounding them, like we've said. But enjoy the game, fellas. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Brother.
Come in.
And we will talk to you guys next week as we recap this Penn State victory. Take care.